Welcome to Echo.Church Online and happy Father's Day. My name is Joe Newton. I'm one of the pastors here at Echo, and we're really excited that you're joining us today. We have an amazing service planned for you. But before we get there, we wanted to send a special welcome to anyone joining us for the first time. And whether you are joining us for the first time or have been coming to Echo for a while now, we would love the opportunity to check in on you. And so at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a link that says check in. We're going to ask you to click that link. We'd love to check in on you, pray with you, and answer any questions that you may have. In just a little bit, we're going to continue our Hope Project series with Pastor Andy. But before we do that, we want to invite you, wherever you're watching from today, to go ahead and join us in worship.
Come on, Echo.Church, let's praise Jesus today. Oh, we lift high your name, oh, King Jesus. There's no one like you, Jesus. Oh, come on, church, let's sing it out. Let praise. Let praise be a weapon that silences the enemy. Let praise be a weapon that conquers all anxiety. Let it rise. Let praise arise. Alright, we sing. We sing your name in the dark and it changes everything. We sing with all we are and we claim your victory. So let it rise. Let praise arise. Oh yeah. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, sing let faith. Let faith be the song that overcomes the raging sea. Let faith be the song that calms the storm inside of me. So let it rise. Let faith arise. Oh yeah. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, come on, we're going to declare this today. This is what living looks like. It's what freedom feels like. Come on, join in with us today. Oh, and this is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We come on and sing. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We praise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh,
we praise you. How great the chasm that lay between us. How high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. You are living, you are living. Oh, who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name. Jesus Christ, my living hope. You're living. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on. Amen. Let's sing that again. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me.
it's hard to sing that song without losing my breath a little bit. You know, the truth is that this is why we can live in freedom. This is why we can walk with Jesus, because he paid that price. He paid the price that you and I never could pay. And sometimes I'm just so reminded, especially as we sing this song, you've broken every chain. He's broken every single one. You don't have to live as a slave anymore, as a slave to your fear or to your sin or to your past, because he has washed it clean when he died on that cross for you. And if you were the only one alive, he would have done it. It's not because of the masses, it's because he loves you personally, intimately, and he sees you today. There's a verse that's been jumping out to me this week, and it says this. It says, we are made right with God by placing our faith in Jesus. And this is true for everyone who believes, not just a few. It's for everyone, no matter who we are. For everyone has sinned, and we all fall short of God's glorious standard. Yet God in his grace freely makes us right in his sight, and he did this through Jesus Christ when he freed us from the penalty for our sins. We've been set free today. When we put our hope in Jesus, we can be free. We can experience what it's like to live without burden of sin and shame and darkness. And so today we're going to just declare this one more time. We're going to declare, praise the one who set me free. That's who he is. He's the one that saves us, the one that sets us free. So if you're comfortable, lift your hands with me. This is a sign of surrender. Come on, let's invite him. Let's say, thank you, Jesus. We praise you today. Come on, let's declare now. Yeah.
Hallelujah. Praise the one who set
Come on,
me
declare it
free.
today.
Hallelujah.
Oh, Jesus.
Death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah. Praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Jesus Christ, my living
God, we are so grateful for you. We are so grateful for you sending your son Jesus to die on the cross for every single one of us. God, I can't help but smile ear to ear, just overjoyed thinking about what Jesus did for us. We praise you. We give you all the praise. You are worthy. God, I pray for every single person who's listening or watching right now. And I pray, God, that you just continue to stir in their hearts. You continue to do what only you can do. God, I pray that our ears are open if you are calling us, if you are speaking to us, and you always are. So God, we pray for open hearts, open ears, and we just continue to open ourselves up to you and see what you have for us today. We love you, Lord. We ask for all of this in your mighty and precious name. Amen. Thanks so much for worshiping with us.
Happy Father's Day, everybody. So glad that you're here joining us. My name is Tim.
And I'm Steven. We're really glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Hey, so Tim, happy Father's Day, my friend.
Happy Father's Day to you as well.
What are you guys doing to celebrate you today?
So I'm not entirely sure what the plans are yet, but for Mother's Day, my wife chose to cut my hair, so I'm hoping that I get to cut her hair today.
That is great.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. What are you doing?
So I'm a big coffee buff, you know that about me, and so I figured for Father's Day, if I could teach my kids how to do a proper pour over coffee, it's the gift that keeps on giving. So we're gonna have a lot of tries today, but we'll see what happens.
That sounds great. I love the idea. Well, hey, today we want to encourage all of you, make sure to check in with us. You can go to Echo.Church/check-in or just click the button that's right there. We'd love to know how you're doing. This is the best way for us as a church to connect with you. If you're brand new to Echo.Church, it's especially important for you to do so because every time you check in for the first time, you'll get a $10 gift card that's going to get emailed to you. And in addition, we make a contribution to Echo Compassion that is a ministry that is blessing people who are really in need right now in this crazy season in the light of COVID and all of the anxiety that comes with that. And so make sure you check in. You're making a difference in somebody else's life and you're getting blessed with it as well.
Man, that's awesome. $10 for just showing up.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, for just showing up on Father's Day, we also have something exciting to share. And so for all of you dudes out there, this is your chance. You're going to go to Echo.Church/check-in or hit the button down in the chat. And we're giving away 2 masterclass subscriptions. Annual subscriptions. Today at the end of this service. I personally have wanted one of these for a while, so I've been checking them out. I'm really big on the food gardening scene, and there's an urban gardening class that I have been dying to try. So when you get your login, feel free to share with me and I'll make you some great food. Now, Tim, I know that you've been looking at this as well.
That's right.
What masterclass would you want to actually use?
Yeah, so I don't know about you guys, but when the rocket launched a couple weeks ago, I got all over the space scene. Like I was all over YouTube checking out all the videos about the International Space Station, and I saw there's a master class with Chris Hadfield, who was a commander of the International Space Station, and he does something about space exploration. That sounds amazing to me. That's what I want to check out first.
That's awesome. So don't forget, right now, Echo.Church/check-in, and at the end of this service, we're going to announce our 2 winners. Happy Father's Day.
Well, as a church, we've been in the midst of this season we're calling the Hope Project. For 40 days, every single Sunday, we're hearing a message that is about hope. In addition to that, we're also going through a 40-day devotion that was written by Pastor Andy himself. And we're using it in our groups, we're using it in our daily lives, and we're being encouraged. And the third thing that we're doing is our Echo groups are all going through the Hope Project together. And there's over 200 groups out there for you to join and to be a part of. So I want to encourage you, go to Echo.Church/Hope Project, check out all the amazing resources around hope that are there, and make sure to get connected and find hope in this season. I'm personally in a men's group right now, and we're doing the whole group over Slack. So we're chatting every single day and going through the devotions together. And one thing I love about that is that we don't have to have a meeting time set. We just get to chat at our own convenience and just get to connect with each other that way. It's pretty cool.
That's so great. Yeah, my men's group meets Thursday mornings at 6 a.m., of course, with a nice cup of coffee.
Of course.
And so we're excited. As we mentioned, today is Father's Day. And so we're doing something a little bit different and a little bit special. We have 2-time Grammy Award-winning artist Lecrae. He's a rapper out there in the world, and Andy and Stacy got the privilege to interview him about the topic of hope. And so I'm really excited because Lecrae has actually been a big influence in my personal walk and my faith. He's been there since I was in high school producing music that has helped me get through some really hard times. And so I'm excited to hear the message of hope that he has for us. But before we get there, I know it being Father's Day, we keep talking about that. One of the toughest things and most important things of being a father is just answering your kids' questions.
So many questions.
And my son Judah, he's 6, he likes to ask me 50 questions a day. And some of those are really impactful and also really important topics for him to learn. And so what we've done is we've gone out to all of our Echo dads to say, what are some of the questions that you need to answer? And so we want you guys to check that out.
What? That is a good question. You safely pull up the road and give me a call immediately.
Shave? No, you don't shave.
What makes me a man? This beard that I've been growing since the start of shelter in place.
Rules on your phone are there to protect you and help you learn self-control. It's also important to interact face-to-face with each other by balancing screen time with being present.
Go ask your mother.
First thing,
get some great meat. Second, only put on oil, salt, pepper. Third, grill, hot, 500 degrees, 6 to 8 minutes, internal temp of 140 for a medium steak. And that is how you grill the perfect steak.
Spend less than what you make. Once you've cut down your expenses, find ways of creating additional income. If you do those two things, you should be in good financial shape.
Integrity is telling your kids to do the right thing, but making sure that you live it out first. Right, Karis?
When you can do what? Baby girl, I already told you. When Jesus comes back.
I think like you would treat your sister or your mom or your daughter maybe, yeah.
Bueno, vete. ¿Qué this? ¿Verdad? This? 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 I guess.
Do I have what it takes? No way. That's why I totally rely on Jesus.
God is the perfect father. I wish I could be the perfect father. God sees things in us that no one else sees. He sees the very best in us. He's made us all unique and different. Different characteristics, different personalities, different gifts. And He's done that on purpose.
Hey everybody, happy Father's Day. We are so glad that you're joining us. My name is Andy. I am the lead pastor here at Echo.Church. If you're joining us for the very first time, welcome. I want to welcome those of you who are joining us from Crossroads Church, Western Hills, Echo.Church, and the Greater Bay Area. Maybe you're here, you're a Lecrae fan, you heard that he's going to be on the service online with us today. In just a few minutes, we're going to get to that conversation. I'm excited about it. Actually, if you've never heard of Lecrae, Lecrae is a hip-hop artist. He is an entrepreneur, an author. He's a Grammy Award winner. He's a great voice for racial reconciliation, for fatherhood, for being a great man of God. He speaks hope into dark places in our world through his music. He's doing a phenomenal job bringing a message of life to so many people, fighting for justice. He's going to blow you away with his wisdom, with his story. I'm really excited to get there in just a minute. But before we go there, I want to make sure you know we're in a 40-day journey together as a church. It's called the Hope Project. And we've been looking at how do we live with hope. I know that right now for so many of us, this feels like a hopeless time. There's so much confusion, the COVID crisis, what we're facing with racial reconciliation, and more importantly, the racism that still exists in our country in so many ways is a big problem. And we believe that God is using all this to form and shape His church. He's using it to bring hope, to bring light. And that doesn't happen if we don't have hope. If followers of Jesus or the church is not a place of hope, we can't bring hope to the world. So we're trying to fill you up with hope so that you can give hope to others. To do this, we've been looking at the book of 1 Peter in the New Testament. He's one of the early followers of Jesus. And I just want to read you a couple of verses that will encourage you and shape our conversation with Lecrae. Peter says to a group of people who are being persecuted for their faith in Jesus, persecuted for their ethnic background, he gives them some words of encouragement for difficult times. He gives them hope for difficult times. And he says this, "So be truly glad, there is wonderful joy ahead." How many of you would like to know for certain that there's joy in front of you right now? That there are good times on the horizon? And Peter is saying that you can have confidence if you have your faith in Jesus, if you are looking to him for your hope, that you can have confidence that there is joy in front of you. We don't know when, maybe a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year. It may be a decade, but there is joy ahead of you, he says. Even though you must endure many trials for a little while. So all of us in different ways, we're facing trials. And right now is a very tumultuous time. There are a ton of trials that we're facing collectively and individually, as a nation and as individual people. He says, though, even though you must endure many trials, these are for a little while. These trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold, though your faith is far more precious than gold. So when your faith remains strong through trials, he says, it will bring you much praise and glory and honor on the day when Jesus Christ is revealed to the whole world. This is hope for hard times. It's hard to have hope when life is hard, isn't it? And in this interview, you're going to hear from Lecrae how God used hard times to shape him, how God used difficult seasons to make his life stronger, his faith stronger. And I believe today God wants to give you a word of encouragement, that he's sustaining you, he's strengthening you, that there is wonderful joy ahead. And if you'll press into him, that this season of life can become a defining moment that helps you become the man, the woman that God has created you to be. So let's turn to this conversation with Lecrae, this candid conversation, and let's allow God, the Holy Spirit, to fill our hearts with hope as we hear his story and how God used trials to form and shape this wonderful man. Lecrae, what's up, man?
What's going on? How are we doing?
Hey, how are you, man? It's so good to have you with us today. Thanks for being here.
Hey, our church has not been more excited about anything we've done for years than having you this weekend. So it's great to be with you.
Yeah.
Happy Father's Day, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I know that you are your husband, a father. You how long have you and Dara been married now?
14 years.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Crazy. Met this girl when I was 18 years old, and can't keep my eyes off her still.
How old are your kids?
So I have a 12-year-old, 11-year-old, and an 8-year-old.
Okay. That's great. You're very similar to us. We're 13, 11,
and 6.
Yep. So, hey man, there's so much we could say about you. Singer, songwriter, author, 2-time Grammy Award winner,
social activist,
passionate follower of Jesus.
Yep.
It's like you just keep putting commas at the end.
Basketball player, weightlifter extraordinaire,
bodybuilder. So, man, I really am grateful to be able to learn from you. I feel like there's so many angles that we could go into. I love your book that you put out, Unashamed.
Unashamed.
And there's so much helpful content in there. One of the questions I have for you about the book, so there was a point I was like, is he really going this far into it?
Yeah.
And you
honest.
you shared it all, man.
Yeah.
And I know that had to take a ton of courage on your part to be so vulnerable and authentic. I'm curious, like, was there a moment for you where you're like, I'm just going to go all in. I'm going to say it all the way it happened?
Yeah, you know what? I just went through a time in my life where I realized that leaders lead in vulnerability. And if I really wanted to experience healing, I had to acknowledge the wounds that were festering in my life. And so by me acknowledging those wounds, I was able to receive the healing necessary. And I think that once you're on the other side of it, it's a lot easier for you to talk about it. There's no shame. The shame does not have a grip on you when you can acknowledge the issues and the areas that have caused you a lot of shame. Once you know that God has done some healing there.
Yeah,
that's so good. In your book, you talk a lot about your early years and how difficult the challenges that you faced in your early years, growing up without a father in your home, and then you were exposed to a lot of things at a young age, just some drugs and neglect, abuse. You had even looking up for a father figure to your uncle, and how he was the one who had showed you a gun and kind of led you a bit towards that gangster lifestyle. And that was so much for you to overcome as a young child. And in our church, there's a lot of single moms that are trying the best they can. A lot of people that have started perhaps with the ball not on the 50-yard line, but like they're getting the ball back in the parking lot. And how do you, what kind of advice do you have for maybe single moms out there who are trying to raise kids in a way that is good and faithful? And then how do you overcome when you're getting the ball at a place that is not on the 50-yard line? You're not set up for success.
No, that's great. I think I have to give a lot of credit to my mother for doing a phenomenal job in raising me and just being an anchor when my dad was not around. And she actually does a great job even now of mentoring single moms and giving them insight and inspiration. And I know one of the things that she's constantly reminding them of is how important it was for her to develop community, community of people around her who could support her during this time period. And obviously for those women who are connected to a church, the church is a wonderful primary place to be a community where you can experience care and concern. And then, she's also been a big advocate of, learning and receiving encouragement from other people. There were so many people who were able to speak into her life and tell her about me that gave her insight and inspiration in order to keep pushing the ball forward. And so I just think it's very important. I think single mothers oftentimes just try to wear every hat possible, and it's just impossible to do that. So placing yourself in a spot where you have great community and where you can also just be honest and say, I need help. I can't do this on my own.
That's good. One of the things that I think is so beautiful about your story is the tenacity, the passion, how much you've overcome. Yeah. Talk about the mindset, like how you think. What were some of those key perspectives for you in your teenage years as you started kind of turning the corner with your faith that helped you overcome so many barriers that you faced?
I think for me, I had to come to the end of myself. We all kind of have to come to the end of ourselves before we realize and recognize that the Lord is our only solution, is our only way out, because we have let ourselves down so consistently. And I was very fortunate to come to the end of myself as a teenager. There were just so many problems in my life I couldn't solve. There were so many issues that I was dealing with that I didn't have solutions for. And that led me to say, well, God, if you're real and if you're there, then I need help, because I've run out of options and solutions and answers. And God is always faithful to answer when we're sincerely calling on him to show up in the midst of the darkness.
That's really good. What about like key relationships that, aside from your mom, that, kind of John Maxwell talks about the law of the lid and how people can lift the lid. Who were some of the people that lifted the lid for you?
Definitely my grandmother. My grandmother was very instrumental. She fleshed out her faith way more than she talked about it. So I saw her serve people. I saw her, at orphanages, at shelters. She gave food to everybody in the neighborhood, in the community. She would pick up clothes and deliver them to different people and, help out in nursing homes. So I saw her flesh out her faith, and she just, I knew she had a strong belief in God, but it was really seeing her put that in action that lifted the lid for me. So definitely my grandmother is going to be key. And then I had a mentor in college who's a pastor in Atlanta now named Dahadi Lewis. And Dahadi was very instrumental in just being very patient with the young Lecrae who didn't know much of anything about faith or about God. And he was just very patient and gracious and walked with me in that early part of my journey.
That's awesome, man. When you said Dahadi in your book, I was curious to know if it was Dahadi Lewis. So that's awesome, man. He's a great guy. That's awesome. So a couple years ago, you started making a transition with your music. You were kind of a Christian hip hop artist, and then you kind of transitioned. You made this pivot to a hip hop artist who is a follower of Jesus. I'd love for you to talk about that decision, because it was a massive pivot. And I know in a lot of ways you received criticism from the Christian community. Unpack that process that you went through as you shifted.
Yeah, I think, I never forget, I was in Sacramento at a Sacramento Kings practice. And some of the players were hanging out after practice, and I had a CD and I was trying to pass it out. And I remember them saying, "Oh man, we don't listen to Christian rap. We listen to regular rap." And I was like, man, that's unfortunate, because the music that I have, I feel like would be beneficial. Number one, I think you'd like it. And number two, there's probably messages and content in this music that would be helpful for you. But there was this stumbling block over the genre. And that saddened me, because I didn't want anybody to feel as if they could not listen to my music unless they had their lives right, or they were fixed, or, they were holier than thou. And so I just wanted to make sure that people knew me first as someone who cared about them, someone who was concerned, someone who had music that could affect their soul and their life. And then they could ascribe to me whatever genre or title they wanted to afterward. I just wanted to make sure that what they knew more than anything was that I was there to serve them. And that was difficult, because obviously as the church wants to come through the door very distinct, and we are Jesus followers, and that's who we are, and that's all we're gonna talk about. And I think I don't have a problem with that. I think that's great. I just think that there are 4 quadrants of Christian, of fleshing out your faith. And, there's the distinctive kind of I'm different and bold characteristic. There is the let's be transformative and change the culture and the society around us quadrant. There's the humble excellence. Let's just do great work silently. And then there is, we want to do good and we want to serve. And I think we need all of them working together. And so this was me kind of wanting to do good and serve with my art. I wasn't shying away from my faith. I just wanted to make sure that the service was highlighted.
Yeah.
I know that you have been an advocate among other hip hop artists of really challenging people to make the message of hip hop more positive and hopeful, and instead of the lyrics being like something you wouldn't want your middle school kid to listen to, but something that that would be a message of hope and a positive message. Do you feel like it's taking effect yet? Like it's that it's taking root among other artists? Do you see a change at all in the culture of hip hop?
I think that, my tenure was very monumental within hip hop culture. And I say that humbly, not like I changed hip hop, but when I say that, I mean to say that beforehand, there were all sorts of stigmas about Christians making hip hop music. And I think there's so many barriers that I was able to break that it made it acceptable. It made it, in a weird way, okay for people to listen to my music and not feel like they were going to be ostracized or that the quality was somehow going to be downplayed. And I think it created room. Now I hear mainstream artists reference me in their music. And, for me, it definitely became an inroad to where now I can be a voice in the midst of a lot of chaos and be appreciated.
Yeah.
That's good. My kids love you, man. And I'm grateful in so many ways for your influence. My daughter wanted to be here, by the way.
She wanted to perform for you, I'll Find You.
Wow.
She's pretty good.
But I love that there's both younger generation and people our age that look to you, that you're a voice in the midst of so many voices, that you're shaping culture. I know in your book you talked about Andy Crouch and kind of there are 3 responses of critiquing culture, consuming culture, or creating culture. And I think that your story is able to impact and influence so many different sectors of society. And we have a lot of people who are joining us who are engineers, they're developing apps, they're working at Google, Facebook, Apple. So they're shaping culture with tech in the Bay Area. I'd love for you to talk about that perspective, because your pivot to focus on people who are far from God and create culture is so important that it applies to every job that anybody has.
Yeah.
So talk about that passion of how can somebody see their role in society to shape culture in any domain?
Yeah, I think, we tend to look at our contributions, specifically like spiritual contributions, as like, being a part of the clergy or going on a trip to Africa or Latin America, when in reality, the opportunity for us to be useful in this grand narrative is in our everyday lives, is in our everyday jobs. Every sphere and sector of human life belongs to God. And so engineering is an opportunity to make things better, is an opportunity to, that's part of the kingdom agenda, is making things better. Music, art, science, all of those are sectors where we can be effective and useful and create redemptive narratives. So when we talk about films, people are saying, well, what kind of films can I make? I don't know if I want to make explicitly Christian films. That's fine. Are you making a redemptive film? Are you making a film that shows chaos looking like chaos, shows evil looking like evil, and shows goodness looking like goodness? Because that's what we're after. And I think that applies to every sector of human life, is us taking that and finding redemptive uses for it. Quick story. I was working in college at a call center, and I was a bill collector, and I was like, how in the world can this be redemptive in any kind of capacity? But one of my mentors showed me that I don't have to call people and say, listen, you need to pay your bill or we're coming to get you. I started educating people on credit and how their credit was affected and what they can do to change it. And people felt empowered and encouraged and said, oh, well, I need to make a payment. And I rose to the top of the debt collectors by empowering people and encouraging people. And it was a way for me in school just to use my job redemptively.
That's really good.
That's a cool story. I'd never heard that one. I like that.
One of the things I also love about your story is you've been a social activist for a long time.
Yeah.
And even within the recent months, with everything that has happened with Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd's murders and all that is happening, your voice, you've been speaking on this for a really long period of time.
Long before it was fashionable. You've actually received criticism even from people saying your lyrics are too political or your stance is too public, and in the past. But now you're a voice that a generation is looking to for leadership, and you've not just focused on race, but you've focused on people that are incarcerated. You've done a lot of inner city work. You've worked with homeless people. So first of all, thank you for your activism and for how you're a voice and even a pioneer in this area that are leading the rest of us.
And I think one of the things I want to say too, in addition to that, man, is like God really has given you such wisdom in the way that you respond. Like the way that you communicate helps people think differently, touches the heart. And personally, I even just watching all that you've been putting out there has been very helpful for me as a white pastor.
Yeah.
And so I want to say thank you. Even your patience and grace that you've displayed in so many conversations has been very apparent. So thank you for that, man.
Yeah, and a lot of people are joining this conversation for the first time right now, and a lot of white people perhaps are waking up to the reality that racism does in fact exist, that white privilege is actually a thing, and I know that can feel frustrating to someone who has been in the conversation for a long time and has been raising this flag and raising awareness. But what would you say to people who are now just kind of waking up to all of this and finally joining the conversation? What would your advice be to someone that wants to be a part now?
Yeah, I would say it's a marathon, not a sprint. So make sure you're in it for the long haul. It's going to take long suffering. You cannot change 400 years in a week or a month or a year. And so become lifelong learners, and begin to shift from, having to be the loudest voice in the room to being the best listener in the room, especially as it pertains to people of color, is being a great listener and a great learner. For me, I spent so much time, in college learning about my particular major. And then when you change majors, you've got to start all the way over again. And I think that's what's happening for a lot of people, is that, they're coming to realize, like, there's nothing that I've studied previously that is giving me the type of ammunition and information I need for this journey. But I would say, man, God is faithful. He's provided wonderful voices and materials out there for people to continue learning and just become a lifelong learner and a listener.
That's good. What would you say are like top 1 to 2 resources that you would recommend, books or podcasts or places that you think people should be going to learn?
Yeah, one book I've seen a lot of progress with, especially as it pertains to my white brothers and sisters understanding, is Divided by Faith, which dives into some of the kind of central issues that create frustration with seeing privilege or seeing any of these particular things. I'm going to just give some very clear pictures that help my white brothers and sisters navigate what they're experiencing. And then another resource I would say is Latasha Morrison's Be the Bridge, where it's a little more simpler, more easier to digest, but it's very good and helpful, gives a lot of practical understanding of what people can do as they navigate this. And then I would say become a collector of a multitude of different voices as it pertains to America within the black and white issues that we're dealing with here. Black people are not homogenous. We don't all think the same. We don't all have the same perspectives. And so in the same way I tell somebody to engage politics, don't just pick 4 people from the same, political view. Find 4 people with different political views so you can kind of understand all of their different vantage points. So there's going to be black people that have different vantage points on different things, and then become a collector and a student of all of their voices.
That's really good.
Yeah, that's helpful.
What would you say? We have, a good number of black people in our church, and some of the conversations I'm having, even with staff members about this, just saying, I'm exhausted, like watching the news, and then, you have one black guy on staff, and then everybody wants to talk to him and have the same conversation. And so I'd love for you to talk about that exhaustion. Like, what encouragement would you give to the black people in our church with all the emotional trauma that this is bringing up right now?
Yeah, what my encouragement to my black brothers and sisters is not to feel like you have to bear the weight of being the educator. There are so many resources. What I've done is I've compiled kind of a book list, and I have it just on my phone, and I'll just text it to somebody, instead of feeling like I have to unpack everything and deal with the emotional trauma or microaggressions of what I have to live. It's going to be difficult, but there's grace for you. And I think it's giving yourself grace and recognizing that God will give you the grace to not have to, be everything, to not have to have all of the right answers at all the right times, but to be able to say, listen, here's some resources, here's some places, that you can look at. And what I've personally wrestled with or thought through, had to think through, is that, man, I live this every day. My white brothers and sisters, they have the privilege of not having to think about it. So because I live this every day, it's a little bit it's secondhand information for me, whereas it's this new concept. So I remind myself that, and I say, hey, listen, because I live this every day, it's a little more tougher for me to just dive into it at, level 1. I live at level 10. So here's some books and some resources that'll help you get it from level 1 up to, maybe level 7, and let's engage.
That's really good, man. Any other advice that you would give to us as, in our role of leadership being white, to continue this conversation? I know you talked about the long haul and thinking years and decades. Even in the short term, give us some things that we really should be considering as a church to continue to be advocates for justice, stand against racism, and really do our part to move the ball down the field.
Yeah, I think, there's internal and external changes that can be made. Obviously, internal changes are making sure that you have leaders and voices in your church and in your infrastructure that, reflect the diversity that you are wanting to reach and to communicate to, so that from a leadership level, those types of things can be implemented. And then externally, it's making sure that you have people that you can listen to, that you can bring in, great leaders and thinkers that can come in and educate both you and your church. And it's just an opportunity to sit and listen. There's a tons of incredible thinkers and leaders and pastors out there who can give great information. But then in terms of the fight, the long-term fight for justice, I think it is buckling up for long suffering and buckling up for the long fight. I think oftentimes we as people love the idea of, the salvation that Jesus brings, but we hate the idea of carrying the cross. And there's no resurrection without a crucifixion. So it's going to be painful. It's going to be some work, but God is in it, and it's beautiful on the other end.
That's good, man. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all that. Today is Father's Day, and there are so many dads out there. Knowing your journey of kind of walking through growing up without a father, I'd love for you to talk about that, like your perspective on fatherhood. You've stood in that gap as well. I know that you've done several media campaigns about the importance of fatherhood. Talk about, give some vision to dads based on your experience with the significance of their role to shape the future and the next generation.
Man, I can speak to it from the standpoint of not having my father in my life and how much of a gap and a hole that left in my upbringing. And so I would just encourage all the fathers out there who are struggling with sticking it out, or just on the edge, or thinking that their presence doesn't matter. It matters a ton. I'd also say engage them, engage them often, have conversations, listen to their interests. They're little humans who have perspective and have ideas and have dreams. And those dreams and ideas deserve to be listened to. Oftentimes dads want to come home after dealing with the stresses of life and just, tune that out. And I would say, no, tune in. This is where the real work begins, is listening and hearing what your children have to say and think, and getting involved. And then I would just encourage dads that, man, our ultimate role is to point them to the Father. So as long as you are doing that, you can admit your mistakes. You can admit, I admit my mistakes to my kids all the time. I say, hey, listen, this is one of those instances where dad does not know what he's doing, but God does. So, just continue to do that.
I'm a little curious what it's like to be one of Lecrae's kids. And I wonder, what do you hope they remember about you as a dad?
I would hope that they remember that I would hope that we've created memories, that I don't want to have the type of relationship with my kids where, there's no consistency of memories. It's like, oh yeah, that one time when we went fishing. I want them to be able to say, I there was always a moment, a memorable moment created there because my dad was intentional. My kid loves skateboarding. My oldest son loves skateboarding. I want him to love basketball, but he loves skateboarding. So because I'm not as interested in skateboarding, I could easily check out and not go to the skate parks and not indulge him in this. But I've taken it upon myself to, all right, well, this kid loves skateboarding. Let me watch some videos about it with him. Let me understand, what the skateboarding culture is about. And we're going through this process of learning about skateboarding together, and we're creating moments and memories together in that process. And I think that's what's important, is just creating those moments and memories together.
Yeah.
That's really good, man.
I love that.
I was really happy to hear that you are writing again. You're a phenomenal writer, man. I was very, just super engaged with your story.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to stop. And so I'm excited to hear you got a new book coming out. You have another album.
New album too. We're so pumped.
Tell us about the new album and the new book that's releasing.
Yeah, so the album is called Restoration, and it's just centered around how God has done some serious restoration in my life and allowed me to see that He's not transactional, but He's relational, and He's willing to walk with me on a journey to restore my mind, body, and soul. And so the album is walking us through that journey. That there's also a documentary that comes with that where people can kind of see behind the scenes of how this restorative process actually happened in my life. And then the book is due out in October, and it's called I Am Restored, How I Lost My Religion But Found My Faith. And, essentially the book is a memoir walking people through what it's like to navigate doubt and despair in political climates, in racial climates, in relational climates, in marital issues and problems. And how are you navigating all that? And learning that my devotion is not about how consistent and how often I show up to meet with God, but devotion is about how consistent and how often He shows up to meet with me.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's what I want people to walk away with.
That's good, man. So people who want to find more about you, the website will come across the screen. Also on Instagram at Lecrae. There's a ton of resources there. So check out this new book and new album coming out. And then also our staff has been pushing me to do a rap battle with you.
Oh, boy.
He's been practicing all day.
So I'm going to throw you a word. Are you okay with it? 1 minute rap off? Rap battle?
What you got?
Okay. All right. So on Hope, since we're in the Hope Project. So I was having a bad day. I saw Lecrae. I was feeling down. He threw me a line. I had a good time. Now I have hope. It's better than soap. My past is clean. Jesus Christ making me squeaky. Oh, I can't use clean twice. That's all I got. My man can't rap. All right, man.
Wow.
That set the bar real low for you, Lecrae. So it's not hard to top that.
Yeah. Listen, they call me Lecrae. I am a Christian. I was trying to hear you rap. I was trying to pay attention. You threw out a word, and the word was hope. When I heard you start rapping, I was like, nope.
That's great, man. I love it.
That's good. Hey, man, thank you so much for your time. May God continue to bless your ministry, your influence. May He pour out His abundance and favor upon you to bless you to reach this generation, the next generation, and generations to come. Thank you so much for blessing Echo.Church, other churches in the Bay Area. This has been an awesome, awesome interview. Happy Father's Day to you, bro.
Thank you. Happy Father's Day. God bless.
Well, Pastor Andy, thank you for making my Father's Day wish come true. I can't believe you actually did a rap battle with Lecrae. That was amazing.
Yes.
It shows true humility and great courage on your part.
I think the key word is humility.
Yeah, and it truly was a gift to all of us, so thank you. But in all seriousness, in the midst of this project of hope that we're in together as a church, I couldn't help in all of this message and this interview being reminded of, at the end of the day, the true source of hope that we all have. And for those of us who are followers of Jesus, our hope comes from one event. To know that Jesus came here on this earth to live a perfect life, really giving us an example and a template to live by, but then dying on the cross to take away the punishment that we deserve for our mistakes. But the event that our faith and our hope comes from is in the fact that he didn't stay dead, but he was resurrected. And in that we can have hope that there is a new life after this one in eternity, that we can have hope today that there is a life for us that is far better than a life without him, that there is a life that is empowered by his Spirit, and that our past can be forgiven. And so if you haven't yet placed your trust in Jesus to follow him, I want to encourage you today to join us in this, to pray to him, to surrender your life to him. And you can do so today also by letting us know as a church, because we want to be there to walk alongside you in this journey. You'll see there's a button that's going to pop up where you can click right here to raise your hand and let us know that you're making that decision, or go to the check-in and let us know there as well. And we want to be there in that journey to encourage you, to walk alongside you, to help you get connected in ways that will support you in this journey of faith.
Man, it's so great. And I think it's so fitting that on Father's Day, we get the opportunity to have folks meet their eternal Father.
That's so good.
And it's so great. And one of the things that stood out to me from the interview with Lecrae was when he was speaking about single parents and their desire to just reach out to say, I need help. And in this season alone, there has been so many opportunities for us to be the source of help and hope for those that are reaching out. And so through Echo Compassion and the generosity of all of you, we've been able to partner with other organizations and help so many people. This last week, we were actually able to partner with an organization called Care San Francisco. And we went in and did a service project to help build shelving and organize things so they could serve over 100 people that were in need in San Francisco. And that is because of your financial generosity and contribution. And so I'm thrilled that we get the opportunity to be a part of that. And so if you're interested or have the generosity in your heart to say, I want to be a part of helping others, this is your opportunity to go to Echo.Church/give. You can also click that button down in the chat or go to EchoCompassion.com and give there. And so it's because of that financial generosity, we've been able to reach out and help those who really need some hope in this season.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, as we're talking about gifts, this is the moment that I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for, because we're going to be drawing the 2 names of the winners for the masterclass, who will then afterwards share the subscription with Steven, of course. Yes. We'll share his contact information later. So right now, our team on our host chats on all of our platforms are going to go ahead and share the 2 names right there for you to know who the winner is. So congratulations. Whoever you are down there, you won. You got the subscription. Happy Father's Day. We'll be sending you out an email with all that information so you can access that and enjoy that gift right away.
And I'll be in contact soon. Thank you all for joining us. And we don't want you to forget that this is the beginning of our Hope Project journey together. There is still opportunities for you to get involved by joining a group, or maybe you want to follow along with our daily devotionals. You can go to the Echo.Church app, which is a great resource for so many things. You can go to our website, Echo.Church/Hope Project, and get all the information there as well. Happy Father's Day. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you have a hope-filled week ahead.
We'll see you next week.